After 3 straight days of relentless rain, I cut my Hawaiian vacation short. What was supposed to be a dream escape had become a soggy, overpriced disappointment. The beaches were closed. The hiking trails turned into muddy death traps. And my $400 a night hotel room felt more like solitary confinement than a getaway. So when I got the call that our major client pitch was moved up 4 days, I didn't even complain. I booked the earliest flight back to Chicago, ready to swap disappointment for productivity. The flight was smooth. The taxi ride from O'Hare quick. And I even tipped the driver extra because I was still mentally in vacation mode. The late-night streets were quiet. And my building, the elms on Birch, stood still and peaceful under the glow of the street lamps. I dragged my suitcase up the steps, nodding at the familiar flickers of blue light from TVs behind dark windows. I lived on the 2nd floor. As I climbed the stairs, I looked forward to a hot shower, a drink from my bourbon stash, and a solid night's sleep in my own bed. I unlocked the door, stepped in, and froze. Something felt off immediately. There was a strange smell in the air, perfume, and something else I couldn't quite place. Then I heard it. The sound of running water coming from my bathroom. My heart thudded. I hadn't left any taps on, and I sure as hell hadn't invited anyone into my apartment. I quietly set down my suitcase and crept toward the living room. And there she was, sitting on my leather couch, soaking wet, wrapped in a towel, feet up on my coffee table, carefully painting her toenails like this was her private spot. Next to her sat my favorite bourbon, already half gone, and the TV was blaring some ridiculous dating show. My couch cushions were damp from her body, and her gray blonde hair was twisted in another towel like she'd just stepped out of a salon. It was Margaret Sanders, my neighbor from 2D, 60-something, overly involved in everything. President of the HO for the last decade. We'd exchanged polite nods over the years, but nothing beyond that. For 10 full seconds, we just stared at each other. Her nail polish brush froze mid-air. I blinked first. "Margaret?" I said, incredulous. Her face twisted instantly from shock to indignation. "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be back until Sunday." That snapped something in me. "Excuse me? This is MY apartment. What the hell are you doing here?" She scoffed, as if I were the one out of line. "I'm watching your place while you're gone. Someone has to ensure everything's in order." "Watching it? Who asked you to do that? You're trespassing. You're using my shower, drinking my bourbon, ruining my couch." She waved me off with a flick of her nail polish brush. "I do this for a lot of units. It's a courtesy I offer. And you should be thanking me. Do you know how many break-ins happen when people go on vacation?" "How did you get in?" I demanded. "I'm on the board," she said proudly. "I have access to the emergency key box." At that moment, I noticed my kitchen cabinets were wide open. Food was rearranged. My bedroom door was ajar. Sheets messy. My mail opened and scattered on the coffee table. "You went through my mail?" I snapped. She had the audacity to shrug, just making sure there wasn't anything suspicious. "And honestly, you really should watch your credit card spending." That was it. "I'm calling the police." She stood abruptly, the towel slipping slightly. I averted my eyes. She screamed, "This is assault. I'm not even dressed. Margaret, I'm 10 feet away. You have 2 minutes to grab your things and get out." "You're threatening me," she shrieked. "I'm calling 911. I don't feel safe." She actually picked up her phone and dialed. Her voice changed into a whimper. "Yes. I need help. There's a man in the apartment. He's threatening me. I'm scared." She described me to dispatch, tall, black, aggressive. I pulled out my phone and began recording. I panned across the apartment her towels, the spilled bourbon, the open mail, and finally the family photos on the wall with MY face in them. I spoke loudly enough to be heard on her call. "This is Andre Miller. I live here." She broke in using an emergency key and has been squatting in my apartment. "I have proof of residency, and I'm recording this for my protection." Margaret looked at me, pure hatred in her eyes. The police arrived 15 minutes later. I showed them my ID, my lease, and the footage on my phone. She blabbered about HOA responsibilities, water leaks, and how she'd done nothing wrong. One officer asked, "Ma'am, did you have permission to be in this apartment?" "I don't need permission. I have responsibilities." "Did you use the shower and drink his alcohol?" "I was making sure everything was working properly." They cuffed her right then. She screamed about her arthritis, her husband playing golf with a judge, how the neighborhood would fall apart without her leadership. 2 days later, I got a bogus HOA notice on my door citing fabricated health code violations. Signed by Margaret. Of course, that was the last straw. I gathered evidence, contacted neighbors, and called an emergency HOA meeting. Turns out I wasn't the only one. Over a dozen residents had stories missing items, rearranged belongings, soap that had clearly been used. We voted to remove her from the board. Even her husband abstained. Then came the legal fallout. She faced charges for trespassing, theft, and mail tampering. I filed for a restraining order and joined a civil suit with the other victims. Eventually, her attorney begged for a settlement, restitution, formal apologies, 200 hours of community service, mandatory therapy, and a forced move out within 90 days. And she had to replace every item she used. Personally, she showed up at my door with a new leather couch and top-shelf bourbon. I told her, calmly, none of this had to happen. You just had to respect people's boundaries. She sniffed. This building was better under my watch. No, I said. It's better now. The community has never been stronger. We've got a rooftop garden, a real play area for kids, and residents who actually speak to each other. And Margaret? Last I heard, she's in Florida trying to change the color of a retirement community's clubhouse. Some people never learn. But the rest of us? We learn what happens when you stand up, when you document everything, when you say enough is enough, and when you stop letting people like Margaret Sanders get away with treating your home like it's their kingdom. She called 911 on me. Now she answers to the system she thought she controlled.